Well, amen. It's good to be with y'all here for today for lesson 11 at the Foothills College of Biblical Studies. Brother Jeremy here. And we've been looking at the four temperaments and Dr. Tim LaHaye's book on spirit-controlled temperament. And I hope this has been insightful. I hope it's been a revelation to you. It's pretty amazing when you start studying these temperaments. Today is lesson 11. And today, we've already dealt with the four temperaments, strengths, weaknesses. Today, I'm going to go into a subject that I think is very needful, and I hope I can get this done in 30 minutes because I'm dealing with all four temperaments today. But this is the 11th lesson. I want to deal with this subject today, the temperament of your child. The temperament of your child. It is evident after studying these four temperaments that we conclude this should be a study that is done in every aspect of our life, whether it's employee and employer, pastor and members, husband, wife, in the government, parents and children. We need to look at these in every aspect of our life. So let's talk about it today. I want to focus on the parental aspect of the temperaments. Every parent would agree that if in a family, when you have more than one child, every child is different. I mean, it doesn't matter if you have two or if you have five. They are going to be vastly different. I was thinking about my family when I was growing up, how different we were. We had four children in my family. I've got three siblings, Andy and Cindy and Gwen, and I'm the youngest. We are all different. It's amazing. Each of us have a dominant temperament that, of course, combined with a minor temperament. Every one of us do. You'll have one dominant and one minor. But I was thinking about my sister Cindy. She is choleric melancholy. My sister Gwen, she is sanguine dominant melancholy on the minor. And then my brother's choleric sanguine. And then I, as a child, was sanguine choleric. Now that has changed over the years. Ministry has changed that. Leadership has changed that. It's more now choleric sanguine. But we were all so different. And it's pretty amazing when you start looking at your past in your life as a child, how that could have been, how you could have had some better days if you would have known about these. And I want you could probably think about that in your own siblings and your own family growing up, about how maybe your brother or your sister, and try to pinpoint based on the study we've done what they were, how that things could have been handled better. There are no perfect parents. You got great parents, but there's no perfect parents. I was thinking about my children, Jeremiah and Lydia. Jeremiah is mostly phlegmatic with also the secondary melancholy. And then you've got Lydia. They're totally different. She is mostly sanguine, a dominant sanguine with a choleric minor. And so knowing these four basic temperaments is so important. You have to understand how to deal with each child that you have based on their personality and temperament. Now, write that down for number one. I've just got, I think, maybe 7 or 8 things that I want you to write down throughout the lesson today. 8 things, for that you can turn in. Make sure you've watched the whole lesson. But write that down for number one. Jeremiah and Lydia, my children, their personalities, their temperaments. Jeremiah is phlegmatic melancholy, and Lydia is sanguine choleric. So write that down for number one. Now, you have to understand how to deal with each child based on their personality and temperament. What a choleric may respond to, a phlegmatic may refuse. What a phlegmatic may respond well to might destroy a melancholic. And so it's very important. Write this down for number two. If a choleric father tries to make a sanguine like himself, that would cause a concentration problem. If a sanguine mother tried to make a choleric child like herself, that would cause a rebellion problem. And you could go on with those. But write that down for number two. Here's what the Bible said in Proverbs 22. And I brought this out, I think, in the first lesson. Train up a child in the way he should go. Train up a child in the way he should go. And when he's old, he will not depart from it. That doesn't mean just rigid discipline. as so many parents have messed up and been such disciplinarians that many times I've seen parents destroy the individuality of their child. Now, there's a balance to this, because there is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. A child left to himself will bring his mother to shame. So you have to find a balance on this. But when you say train up a child in the way he should go, you're not just talking about disciplinarianism, and you're not just talking about rigid discipline, but you got to learn to cultivate that personality through the Word of God and through the Spirit of God. All right, a lot of parents want their children to go to the same college they went to, want to go into the same vocation that they did, marry the same type of girl that their daddy did, live on a farm or live in the city or in a small community or a big community. No, not everyone wants to be like that. There's some people that would not survive in the country. And you're looking at one that does not survive and thrive in the city. But you know what? That doesn't make a person bad if they have certain things that they desire over others. So what if their temperament doesn't fit your scenario as a parent? What if your child's temperament does not fit the scenario? See, we're limited by our own experiences. We're in a box, and we're limited by our own experiences. You have to train your children not in the way you want to go, but in the way they should go. All right, train up a child in the way he should go. It does not say train up a child in the way you want him to go. That's not what the Bible says. Train up a child in the way he should go. And they won't be disappointed. If you train them in the way they should go, they won't be disappointed. They'll continue in it. They won't depart from it. On the other hand, if you allow a child just to go their merry way without any guidelines, without any directions, they could wander into a quagmire of disillusion. And so it's a challenge to the parent to find out your child's temperament and to develop them in the way they should go. Now, let's talk about something. Write these 3 things down. There's 3 very important words every parent needs to know. Emotions, negativity, and temper tantrums. Yeah, I said it. Emotions, negativity, and temper tantrums. Okay? Very important for you to understand it. Emotions are physiological states that are associated with feelings, thoughts, behavior. Okay? That's your emotions. It is mental, physiological state that is associated with how you feel, how you think, and how you behave. Emotions are subjective, okay, to experience. Mood, temperament, personality, disposition, all that comes into play with emotion. Very much linked to the temperament that a person is born with. Remember, we said at the very beginning, this is your carnality. This is who you are. This is the nature, all right, of man. And there's 4 of them. We've looked at them. So you got that. Then the second thing is you've got negativity. When I say negativity, I'm not necessarily talking about screaming, hollering, bad attitude from a parent. I'm not talking about that. Negativity is when you don't train your child in the correct way. Okay? Here's what the meaning is. A statement or act indicating or expressing a contradiction, denial, or refusal. Some people are living in denial when it comes to their children. They try to make them things that they are not. So here it is. Emotions, negativity from the parent leads to a temper tantrum. You say, why didn't my child respond right? Why did my child go off on me? Why did my child come at me? Okay, and I'm talking about small children, mid children, teen children, all this, okay? Here it is. It all starts at the top. If you only deal with the tantrum, then you're missing out, okay? And that's the way a lot of folks have done in days gone by. Well, bless God, you need to get that kid under control. Well, the problem was you didn't have them under control from the top. Because you did not study their emotions and you trained them negatively, okay, and not positively. You trained them in the wrong way, and you should have started here, knowing if they were sanguine, choleric, melancholy, phlegmatic. Then you would know how to positively train them, and that would not lead to a temper tantrum. But because we don't understand our children, And even though we may be doing everything we think we know to do, it still could be negative because it's not how they need to know. And so, we got a mind, we got a will, we've got our emotions, right? We're soul, body, soul, spirit. That's part of us. If we do not understand our child's temperament and makeup emotionally, then we will respond to them negatively. And I'm not talking about screaming and hollering. I'm talking about you could be doing it the wrong thing the right way. Okay. And in turn, it's going to cause them to have a tantrum. Their emotions are going to get so bent out of shape. It may not be, because every child's different with the 4 temperaments. Choleric's going to come at you. A sanguine's going to be mouthy. A phlegmatic's going to go crawl in a hole. Melancholy's going to have emotional depression. Okay, so your child could be having a tantrum on the inside, and you don't even know it because they're not a choleric. They're not a bulldozer, get out of my way. Okay, and it is right to control the tantrum. Your child should not be kicking and screaming in the floor. It is right. Discipline is right, and you should do that. But if you've not addressed the emotional problem and you've dealt with it in a negative way, then even though you may control the actions of your child with discipline, it's going to lead them to a life of rebellion. How many times have we seen a child who was under control by their parents, but the moment they had an open door, a chance to get out and do their thing, they did. You know why? Because their mom and dad did not deal with them in their temperament, and because of that, they might have said yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am in the moment, but they had all this deep-seated rebellion and resistance that when they got an opportunity, they said, I'm living for me. Because they've not been properly directed, they go in the wrong direction simply because rebellion and bitterness has taken over. Very important. Think about that. Emotions, negativity, and tantrum. It starts here. You need to learn your child. You need to express to your child the correct training based on what and who they are. Let's look at the 4 temperaments. A sanguine child. Okay? And now that's 3 right there. We've already done 3 questions. So we're going to get to these. Number 4, write these down. These are the good traits of a sanguine child. Okay? Good traits of a sanguine child. Write these down. They are inquisitive, fun-loving, talkative, imaginative, attention seekers, and popular. That is a sanguine. They are the child that everybody wants to laugh at, everybody wants to pick at. They're just everybody's buddy. They're the life of the party at grandma's house. But here's the problem. A sanguine child gets easily defeated because their attention span is so short, and they will most likely have difficulty in school because it's not in their interest. Now, if they're interested in math, they'll be great at math. But you'll notice this, in a sanguine child, they'll have some subjects where they excel in, and they have some subjects where they bottom out. It's because their attention span as a child, a sanguine child, is only going to stay with whatever interests them. They are more apt to excel at extracurricular things than, you say, why? Because that's got them in the spotlight. If you've got them with 30 kids doing math problems, they're not in the spotlight. You see, they're attention seekers. Okay. Lydia is a sanguine. She struggled in school. She hated school. Okay. We got her graduated. One day I looked at her and I said, sis, you're never going to be a doctor. You're never going to be a lawyer. You're never going to be a nurse. You're never going to be this, that, or that. I said, because this is just not you. I said, but I tell you what you are. And I started promoting her social skills. I said, you can do this, and you can do this. And you know what? Her life blossomed. She became a totally different teenager after we had that conversation that day. They hate confrontation and will constantly be an expert at excusing their poor grades. Because, see, they are emotionally driven in the moment. And the reason they don't like to have an argument is because a sanguine needs approval. The worst thing you could do with a sanguine is criticize them, okay? And when a parent is irritated or dissatisfied with a sanguine child, a child will immediately respond as being rejected. You need to understand that a sanguine child cannot deal with rejection. They have to be accepted. They have to feel like they are approved of. Being popular is huge to a sanguine. Okay, and this is a child too. And because of that need for approval, listen, parents, if you have a sanguine child, they are prone to be easily led astray by peer pressure. This can be hazardous if they're with the wrong crowd. So a parent of a sanguine needs to realize how easily that child can be manipulated by popularity. Every event and every person needs to be evaluated. Now, you could take a melancholy and you can let them go. They're going to take care of themselves. They're going to look after themselves. They're going to do what's right. Peer pressure does not affect them, like it does a sanguine. A choleric is going to lead the charge for good or lead the charge for bad. All right, but a sanguine, they're going to follow. So you need to make sure every event and every person that your sanguine child is around, that it has a Christian standard, because they don't know how to say no. You have to say no for them. A sanguine child has a short attention span, so if you say no to your sanguine child, the good news is they ain't going to hold a grudge against you. They need approval. They need outward affection, and it starts at an early age. 3 years old, 4 years old. You can know what your child is early by looking at these traits, studying them, okay? Your sanguine child, listen to me, if you have a sanguine child, they are going to respond better with approval than they will with criticism. That is so true. I know that in my own personal life. Since the sanguine child is emotionally driven, oh, y'all need to hear this. Sanguine children, since a sanguine is emotionally driven, you have to teach them self-control. You have to teach them about good habits. A sanguine child is going to be more apt to have poor eating habits. A sanguine child is going to be more apt and prone to addiction, to video games, to TV, to the internet. They're going to be more apt to drugs because of peer pressure, alcohol, pornography. You could turn a melancholy child loose with a computer and they always want to do what's right, so they may not ever click on anything on the internet that they should. But a sanguine child, you got to watch them. A parent of a sanguine must understand this and safeguard against that. They daydream. Sanguines daydream, and they can tell outrageous stories as a child. The problem is a sanguine can become a good liar if you don't teach them the importance of truth in their life. All sanguine children can find a slot in life, something they do very well. And the parent needs to go overboard in approval when that child starts showing interest, because that approval will be the very thing that helps that child excel in whatever they're seeking. And here's the thing. A lot of times sanguines fall short of the goal, so they need that approval of a parent. Don't ever forget, a sanguine child must be part of the gang no matter who the gang is. Peer pressure is a sanguine killer. You need to mind their friends. Now let's talk about the second child. Not only the second child, let's talk about the melancholy child. The melancholy child, number 5, here are their good traits. They are intense. They are competent. They are creative. They're genius prone. Yep. And they're very sensitive to people's needs. Good traits. The problem is this, they're also sensitive to their own needs. And a lot of times they think nobody else is experiencing the feelings they're having, the emotions they're having. Melancholy children, like melancholy adults, feel sometimes that no one cares. When they get wounded, they get scarred. Oh man, a child that's a melancholy that gets abused, it ruins them. They're gentle, and because of that sensitivity, they're easily wounded as well. And so that causes them to become insecure. It causes many melancholies prone to become drug addicts, alcoholics, perverse sexually because of deep wounds they experienced. They turn to drugs. They turn to alcohol. They turn to the opposite sex. okay, because being wounded in a relationship. The problem, melancholy, they have a tendency to cling to their parents. This is important. They cling to their parents. They have a hard time, if they're neglected or abused early in life, they have a hard time dealing with that, and they will withdraw themselves from society and feel like everybody's going to hurt them. They have a hard time in the area of negative thought patterns. They don't like to talk about what they need, because, they're servants themselves, so they don't want to be a burden on anybody. A melancholy child will go off by itself and deal with its own problems, and very deep-seated and emotionally withdrawn. So you as a parent, if you need to study and find out, do I have a melancholy child? I don't need to let them go off on their own. They need direction. They're very intelligent, but a lot of times that intelligence causes them to not talk about their problems, and they compute things that are not correct. And they need to be able to compute that you love them, and you need to be sensitive to that. They need encouragement. You need to find special talents and gifts that they have, and affirm to them that that's the goal and skill that they need to pursue. Melancholies need to be kept away from anything negative, violent, wicked, sinful. And here's why. Melancholies have memories that hold on, okay? A child that is a melancholy, y'all going to think this is funny, but this is so true. A melancholy child does not need to watch horror movies, because they will dream about it. Their memory, it'll be stuck in their memory. Now, you take a sanguine, we have short-term memory. We forget about things, okay? But a melancholy will hold on to those, and it can cause trauma in their mind. It's amazing. The child needs to be taught to praise God and be thankful for the little things. Make them, or have them make a list of things they're thankful for and get them to repeat it. Things like that are important to a melancholy. Communication is important to this child. Being able to talk to them. Even though they don't like to talk about things, it is important for them to talk it out, because they're analytical and they think about things, and a lot of times their mind can become so engulfed in all the thoughts that's going on in their mind, that storm cloud we talked about. So you need to talk to them, coax them into talking about these things, working them out. It's important for a melancholy child to understand everybody fails. It is important for them to know they are going to fail, and it is important for them to know that people are going to fail. Okay, they're terrified of failure, and they don't forgive failure in others. So you need to teach them that, hey, people fail. Show them in the Bible men and women of God that failed, where God used them later. Because if you don't teach a melancholy that there's second chances, they will go off into depression. They'll go off into a self-abhorrence and hatred of themselves. So you need to show them failure is allowed by God in everybody's life, so we can have compassion with others that fail. It's very important. Number 3, choleric child. Now write this down. Here's the strengths of the choleric child. Good traits. Number 6, they're strong-willed. That's a good trait. That's a great trait. In this world, we need some strong-willed people. Chances are you're going to have sanguine and melancholy children, because that makes up the majority of people in the world. Phlegmatics are only about 10%. Cholerics are only about 6%. So, most of the time you're going to have melancholy, sanguine dominance. Okay, but you need to study, because you may every now and again, you have a choleric, you have a phlegmatic. So you need to study this. But a choleric child, number 6, good traits are strong-willed, born leader, workaholic, productive, decisive, and adventuresome. Okay? The problem with this choleric child is they have no problem expressing themselves in the wrong way. They have no problem getting angry. Okay? Cholerics and sanguines, if you see a child that's showing their self, they're just being a little pain in the you-know-what. If you see a child that is doing that, more than likely they're either a choleric or a sanguine. The cholerics are strong-willed and not afraid to express it. Okay? Sanguines keep their emotions on their shoulder and show them. I mean, we show people when we're happy. We show people when we're sad. We show people when we're upset. So cholerics are loud. Sanguines are loud. So they're the ones most likely. A melancholy is going to sit there and when he has a temper tantrum, he'll just hold his breath and quietly pass out. Phlegmatic's just going to go crawl in the corner somewhere because he don't want the confrontation. So you need to know, all right, a choleric child, let's talk about this choleric child problems. He's a control freak, okay? Whatever course gives the choleric control, that's the course he's going to take, okay? The parent needs to realize that a choleric is a natural born leader, and you shouldn't do anything to thwart that drive. You need to encourage that. You need to encourage them to direct their potential. I will say this is important for you to break the will of a choleric early, because if you don't take charge of a choleric child, that choleric child will take charge of you. So a choleric is a workaholic, right? So you need to find things for a choleric child to do. He needs to be given a job. He needs an assignment. He needs to have something that he's in charge of in the house, something that'll give him control. And the more areas you give him control, the less areas he's going to try to take control. Y'all hear that? Choleric child. They're logical thinkers. When you give them a chore, you're going to have to give them an explanation because they logically think. When you discipline a choleric, you need to give them a great explanation of why they're being punished or why they're being disciplined. Cholerics need consistency, okay? With all the other personalities, melancholy, phlegmatic, sanguine, the choleric needs consistency more than any other. And the choleric child, here's something very important. He feels superior. And so you got to keep that in check. You got to let the choleric know you're no better than anybody else, even though in some ways he is, because he's such a take charge guy or she's such a take charge girl. You need to teach her and him, hey, we're fearfully and wonderfully made. You're who God made you. Be what you need to be. Don't worry about everybody else. Okay, because they have that superiority ego problem. All right. When a choleric fails, you need to teach them that other people fail as well, and you're not to look down on them for their failure. They're short on compassion. Cholerics are short on tenderness, short on mercy, short on forgiveness. You have to train a choleric to have pity. Okay, you have to train a choleric child to care, because we don't care as cholerics, and that's very, very bad trait. Okay, let's talk about the last one, the phlegmatic child, and I'll be done. Good traits of phlegmatic, number 7. Good traits of a phlegmatic. Number 1, they're easygoing. They can get along with anybody. They're calm. They're undemanding. They're agreeable. Great traits, number 7. Here are the problems. They're lazy. Phlegmatics will go to great length to do nothing. Yeah, they will work hard to not work. Phlegmatics. Because of that carefree personality, they can lie, they can be dishonest, rather than perform the duties that they have been asked to do. They're notorious for shifting blame. They will take any kind of chance to eliminate responsibility. They are unable to make up their mind, so you need to be aware that if you have a phlegmatic child, you're going to have to help them be decisive. That indecision will lead to inactivity because they have a propensity to put off anything that's going to cause them to have to exert themselves. They have no goal. They have no drive. You will constantly have to be reminding them, hey, did you get your homework done? Did you study? You ready for the test? A phlegmatic, they just carefree. Oh, it's going to be all right. Okay? Since the child's got no motivation, you have to create things, games and activities that will stimulate their drive and stimulate their goals. It's been suggested that physical activity can motivate a phlegmatic in other areas of their life. And then, like I said, they will lie and be dishonest to keep from work. So you got to understand that you to stop them from lying, the parent has to deal with them in a peacekeeping tone of voice, because a phlegmatic hates confrontation. And they'll do anything and say anything to get out of it, okay? Let's talk about the indecision again. Once a phlegmatic makes a decision, he commits himself to it, okay? But only if he thinks he made the decision. They do not like to be forced to do anything. I told you last week they have a stubborn streak. Even though they're easygoing, they do have a deep, stubborn streak that's sometimes not easy to find. So suggest goals to the phlegmatic. Suggest ideas and things for their life. Let them, make that decision, because they don't like to be forced to do anything. Again, we're talking about children, and so it's very important. We've been doing the analogies, the water analogy. We did the dog analogy, talking about the dogs, the St. Bernard Melancholy, the Golden Retriever phlegmatic, the Jack Russell sanguine, the Rottweiler choleric. And then we talked about the water analogy, where the choleric is the raging, roaring river, the sanguine is the bubbly brook, and the melancholy is the storm cloud brewing, and the phlegmatic is the stagnant pond. Well, I've got another analogy. I've got another analogy for you. It's a vehicle. If the personalities were a vehicle, write this down. This is number 8. This is the last one, and then I'm going to say a few more things before we go off. If personalities were a vehicle, the choleric is a bulldozer, melancholy is a Mercedes. They want everything. They want all the bells and whistles. They want everything right. The sanguine, the 57 Corvette, is shiny, is fast, makes a lot of noise when it goes down the road. Phlegmatic is an 18-wheeler with a 9-speed transmission and a double axle. And they want to stay in first gear. So you've got to encourage that phlegmatic to shift gears, okay? That's your child. They're going to want to stay here, and you've got to convince them that they need to move up in there. Phlegmatic is low-key. Instead of anger, he likes sarcasm. He won't blow up, but he'll blow you off. He won't blow you up, but he'll blow you off. He'll come up with some little smart aleck, want to slap him right in the gourd, sarcastic statement. You got to know that about a phlegmatic. He will try to make others look foolish, and he'll have to be corrected, okay? The opposite side, instead of a slow-flowing stream, confrontation will make him a stagnant pond. So you've got to be careful with how you deal with a phlegmatic. You will cause them to just stop. They will sit down on you. So that's the 4 personalities as a child. There's a lot more I could have said, but again, I'm trying to keep this to 30 minutes, and I've went over about 33. But next week is Thanksgiving week. We will not be having a class, okay, just a reminder. And then our test night, we will be having in-person classes at 6:30 here at Thanks to Calvary Fellowship Hall, and that will be December the 1st on a Tuesday night. Also, that is test night. If you've not got all your homework assignments in, 1, 2, and 3 reading comprehension, then I have not sent you the study guide with the correct answer. So until you get that homework into me, I can't email you that, so make sure you do that. Hope you have a great day. God bless you.